You have to learn on your own because you're motivated to learn. Hi there, Steve Kaufman here, and today I want to talk about artificial intelligence and its application to language learning. Remember, if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe, click on the bell for notifications, and please follow me on a podcast service, especially if you're working on your English. You can carry the audio with you, and I find that very effective in language learning. So, artificial intelligence. I use artificial. First of all, I should say that October the 8th was my birthday. My son and his family were over, and I got this new golf shirt. So I'm happy. 77th birthday. Anyway, artificial intelligence. So I use artificial intelligence in the way I learn languages already. And I think we're just at the beginning of what artificial intelligence can do. I use it, for example, when I watch a television program on MTV Lebanon or some other website in Persian, and then I download the MP3 file, and then I put it on Happy Scribe, which is an automatic transcription service. So that is artificial intelligence as I understand it. I see artificial intelligence as using basically computing power to do things much more quickly and much more efficiently than humans could do it, and thereby giving humans the benefit of this tremendous ability to select and to parse and to divide and all the different things that the computer can do to audio and to text. And thereby make it easier for a learner to learn from that material. So I get these MP3 files, I get this transcribed, and then I'm able, and maybe it's a type of artificial intelligence, I'm able to import the audio and the text very easily into LingQ. So then I have the ability to study this material on LingQ. So that's a basic use of artificial intelligence. I think every time I go to Google Translate to translate something, the machine is translating it for me. So in both cases, the computer is going at this large corpus of audio or text material that it's been through and is able to draw certain conclusions very, very quickly, much more quickly than a human could possibly dream of doing. So you get an instant translation, which may not be as accurate as what a human could do, but that accuracy is improving. So, but where do I see at least artificial intelligence going? So I did some Googling of how people are using artificial intelligence for language learning, and of course, a lot of it relates to the sort of teacher perspective. So we will use artificial intelligence to provide feedback to the learner, because the teacher thinks that a major role for the teacher is to provide feedback to the learner. Personally, I'm not that interested in feedback. Or artificial intelligence can be used to evaluate the learner, grade the learner, maybe grade the learner in a way that's more private than or less damaging to the learner's self-esteem or less time-consuming for the teacher, but still evaluating the learner. I'm also not very interested in being evaluated. So neither of those two things really turn my crank. Then they talk about, coming up with textbooks that are sort of catered to the learner's weaknesses or difficulties. Now we're getting a little closer, but that's not how I would use it. What I see with artificial intelligence and what I think we're going to try to introduce more and more at LingQ is, because language learning is very much an individual thing, a personal thing. You can't expect people to constantly correct you and guide you and give you feedback and evaluate you, and that somehow that way you're going to learn. You have to learn on your own because you're motivated to learn. And therefore, you want to find content that's at your level, that's of interest to you, all the different ways in which you can define content that's going to help you learn. If you identify a voice or type of voice that you like, maybe you can find more material with that kind of voice, for example. You can find more material of a certain regional accent, perhaps. Maybe I should be able to dictate to the using, voice commands, which is artificial intelligence, and say, find me something that's 20 minutes long on the recent demonstrations in Iran, maybe some discussion. Maybe I could even say that I want the percentage of new words to be X sort of thing. Might be more difficult because there will be some competing definitions. Maybe if you want it too simple, it can't deal with more complicated topics. But these are things that would have to be worked out. Or I want a book. I want a book, an audio book, and an electronic book, but I don't want it too long. And again, I want it on a certain subject, maybe Iranian history or something like that. Maybe such a thing doesn't exist, but the amount of time that I spend looking for material, if that could be automated, so someone could automatically find that for me, that would be amazing. Now, we also have text-to-speech, which is a form of artificial intelligence, but most text-to-speech is still not so pleasant to listen to. The voice sounds a bit artificial, but it's getting better all the time. Is it possible that we would get to where, you'd find a text somewhere, something written in Wikipedia or whatever it might be, or a book that doesn't have an audio version, it's not an audio book, but the quality of text-to-speech would be so good that it would actually be pleasant to listen to? A possible use of artificial intelligence. Once you have material, say, that you've imported into LingQ, another problem I have with the current state of artificial intelligence is timestamping. Because when I study content at LingQ, I like to study in sentence mode. So I have a sentence. And I would like to hear the audio just for that sentence. But the timestamping is not accurate. I use Happy Scribe. It says here you can timestamp. And even within LingQ, we have an ability to, re-timestamp certain texts. Apparently it's better in other languages, but in Arabic and Persian, it doesn't work very well. So very accurately timestamped material matching the sentences that I'm studying in LingQ. That raises another issue. If I get something automatically transcribed, now, again, the accuracy of that transcription is improving all the time. So if I have audio material, I would like to read it, I go to Happy Scribe, it's 90% accurate. That's a problem when you're learning the language. Another problem is there's no punctuation. So therefore, some of the sentences that I would like to study in sentence mode are, in fact, a paragraph because there was no punctuation. So as all of this improves, I could maybe say I want the sentences to be between 8 and 12 words long. And so then the text and the corresponding audio would be broken into sentences that shouldn't be less than 8 words long and shouldn't be longer than 12 words long. I'm just thinking outside the box here. I don't know to what extent that is practical or not. But there's a real advantage in studying material in what I call sentence mode, in terms of, maybe reviewing the new characters that were in that sentence, the ability to sort of scramble the sentence and put it back together again, the matching pairs exercise you can do with the 3 or 4 words that were in that sentence that you're still trying to learn. So if it were possible to find content that's of interest to you, the total lesson shouldn't exceed, let's say, 15 minutes. Because you lose your, you start to want to get away from this text after about 30 minutes because it takes so long. And you divide it into sentences with the matching audio. That would be a wonderful use of artificial intelligence. Maybe I could say I'm looking for a certain vocabulary. So I could write something in English and with the vocabulary that I want, have it very accurately translated into the target language, say, Levantine Arabic. And then I would have very pleasant audio, text-to-speech in Levantine Arabic. Is that ever going to be possible? I don't know. Or is it always going to be preferable to listen to an authentic, voice? This raises another issue. When you look at the things that people recommend for, potential use for artificial intelligence, they always have these language bots. So you can talk to a robot and the robot answers you. But how meaningful is that? I've never done that. There's no question that if you have a genuine, spontaneous interaction with someone in the language you're learning, that is very high resonance. you're struggling, you're clinging to every word. That's very high resonance. If you have a lesson with a tutor, it's still a human being. It's better. It's a little more authentic, but it's also a little artificial. So not quite as good, in my view, as that random, genuine encounter with someone. So what about a chatbot now? What about if I'm talking to a machine that's answering me? I don't know how much I'd like that. Would I want that chatbot to correct me? I don't even want my tutor to correct me. I mean, she doesn't. It's not that I would react negatively, but I'm not interested. I'm having a conversation. I'm enjoying my conversation. I don't necessarily want to be corrected. So if you have a bot correcting you, how useful is that? Again, I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. Potential uses of AI. Already it has changed the way we learn. I use text-to-speech all the time. I use Google Translate all the time. I use these automatic transcription services. When I'm in YouTube and I'm looking at a video on whatever the subject might be, something from Lebanon, it's going to suggest a whole bunch of other related type videos. So is all of that going to get better? So it becomes easier and easier to find content of interest and then move from there to a related content of interest, all of which helps you sort of zoom in on a particular range of vocabulary, all of which makes the job of the teacher easier because the teacher doesn't have to prepare the material. You don't have to buy a $200 textbook such as I saw when I visited Stanford University, language textbooks selling for $200. You can get access to all of this material. And even in terms of the grammar, I mean, again, AI can help you identify this particular word, what is, the conjugation of that verb and so forth. You might be able to ask for material which focuses in on the subjunctive mood or the instrumental case or anything in different languages and get a whole bunch of examples of that particular structure, that pattern in the language for you to listen to and read. Again, it seems to me the potential, the opportunities are endless in terms of making not only input more efficient, making it possible to spend less time looking for content, more time on content that is compelling. It can be used, I guess, for evaluation and correction, but it's not how I would use it. And it can help you zoom in on certain grammatical aspects of the language that you know you're having trouble with. So you end up controlling through the material you're using to learn from, what you do, where you focus, and so forth. So I'd be interested in people's reactions. I'm not an expert on AI. I've just done a bit of Googling. I know what I've been using within LingQ, and I know what works for me and what I would like to see one day. So, I mean, even like if you're listening to something and you give a voice command and say, repeat that 5 seconds, like you're listening in the car, you didn't quite get that, repeat. And then repeat, you could set that to be a 3-second or a 5-second repeat, and that little audio would repeat. For example, there's another thing. So I look forward to your ideas. Those are just some of mine on the subject of artificial intelligence and language learning. Thank you for listening. And of course, it is related to, because I'm very much input-based, it relates to the issue of learning through listening and reading, but greatly improving the efficiency of that input-based learning, making that input more and more compelling with the use of artificial intelligence. Thank you. Bye for now.